Have you ever stopped to really think about the massive cinematic anomaly we were presented with on Earth-838? Think back to when we first stepped into that universe. It was this moment of pure, awe-inspiring spectacle, right? We saw this gleaming, almost utopian world. We saw a completely unified front of heroes. There's the Illuminati sitting up there in their pristine, high-tech chairs, projecting this aura of absolute, unshakable control. But today, I want you to step into the shoes of a cinematic detective with me for this explainer. We are going to meticulously unravel a deeply hidden mystery. We're looking at a massive cinematic contradiction regarding exactly how this specific Illuminati actually managed to defeat Thanos. Because on the surface, we're being fed this very heroic, neatly packaged narrative, right? A unified team taking down the Mad Titan. But I'm telling you, when we look past the dialogue, when we actually analyze the visual evidence left behind in the framing, a much darker, much more terrifying truth emerges. So the core question we have to ask ourselves is this: how did they defeat him so easily? And I really, really want to emphasize that word, easily. Because when we evaluate the sheer cosmic scale of Thanos as a threat, the very concept of an easy victory is literally a mathematical and narrative impossibility. Think about who we're talking about here. We are talking about an unstoppable, ruthless warlord. This is a being who casually conquers planets. He commands massive armadas of genetically engineered monsters. He literally wields the fundamental forces of the universe itself in the palm of his hand. To go up against the Mad Titan is to walk into an absolute, literal meat grinder. And yet, the story we are told by the Illuminati implies this incredibly swift, decisive, almost clinical victory. This central paradox, the complete impossibility of a bloodless triumph over the universe's ultimate destroyer, is the very thread we need to pull on today. It's the key to unraveling the entire lie we've been told. To truly grasp the devastating weight of this anomaly, we have to look back at our own universe and remember what a real victory against Thanos actually looks like. Because let me tell you, it is not clean. In our timeline, defeating him required 5 grueling years of absolute, suffocating despair. Remember the deafening silence as our heroes literally turned to ash in Wakanda? Half of all life in the universe was just snapped out of existence in a split second. It broke our greatest champions. It broke them physically, mentally, and spiritually. They spent years utterly trapped in this heavy survivor's guilt. Reversing that absolute nightmare required a desperate, frankly impossible time heist, and it culminated in the agonizing, combined might of literally every single hero on Earth throwing everything they had at him. And even then, with all that power, it still demanded the ultimate, heartbreaking sacrifice from Tony Stark to finally end the threat. That visceral, painful, bloody reality is what it cost to stop Thanos. It cost absolutely everything. Okay, now I want you to contrast our agonizing, devastating, incredibly costly victory with the reality of Earth-838. We're talking about a relatively small team of just 6 individuals. We're looking at a swift, localized finish contained entirely to a single ruined planet. Doesn't something feel incredibly, deeply wrong here? When we start to really examine this framing, we have to consider the source of our information. Baron Mordo is the one feeding us this sanitized narrative. And let's be real, we have every reason to believe he lied right to our faces. So what is his motive? Why paint a picture of a swift, clean victory when the brutal reality of Thanos dictates the exact opposite? The math of this quick victory simply doesn't add up. The power scaling of the entire universe is completely broken if we just blindly accept Mordo's version of events. Let's move into our first major area of investigation: the clues from the Titan flashback. We need to look incredibly closely at the flashback scene on Titan. I want you to completely ignore what the characters are actually saying for a minute and focus entirely on what the visual framing is showing us, frame by frame. Look at the absolute pristine condition of the Illuminati as they're standing triumphantly over the defeated Thanos. Notice the perfect, completely unblemished sheen on Captain Carter's shield. Look at the utterly unruffled, spotless fabric of Black Bolt's uniform. Examine Reed Richards' suit. Do you see it? There are absolutely no scratches. None. They are completely immaculate. In a battle against the most ruthless Titan in the multiverse, a being who can casually shatter vibranium with his bare hands and decimate entire armadas before lunch, their armor and clothing are as perfect as if they literally just picked them up from the dry cleaner. And honestly, it goes much deeper than just their armor. There is absolutely zero physical damage on these heroes, none whatsoever. Let's just list what is glaringly missing here. There are no signs of physical exhaustion. There is no heavy breathing. There are no bruises, no lacerations, no bleeding lips, no ripped capes, no dirt on their faces. They look utterly composed and entirely unbothered. Now think back to the visceral, dirty, bloody reality of the battle on our Titan. Remember how Iron Man was brutally stabbed? Remember Spider-Man getting physically crushed? Doctor Strange was pushed to his absolute sweating, visibly shaking magical limits. But here, nothing. The sheer impossible absence of battleware is a screaming cinematic alarm bell. So my deduction, based entirely on this meticulous visual framing, is that the Illuminati did not actually fight Thanos in a grueling physical battle. Not at all. Honestly, they look exactly like a cleanup crew arriving after the real threat was already neutralized. They are spectators posing for a victory photo, not seasoned warriors who just survived a cataclysmic cosmic war. The hubris of it is staggering when you think about it. They are taking the credit standing tall and pristine over a corpse, projecting this massive image of unified strength for a war they clearly, visibly did not bleed for. But here's the thing, there's one glaring exception. There's one massive piece of visual evidence that shatters the Illuminati's perfect facade entirely, and that is the memorial statue of Doctor Strange himself. I really want you to think about this logically. Why would an entire universe build a massive, triumphant memorial statue of their absolute greatest hero, looking completely exhausted, tired, and almost broken? Look at the physical representation of Strange in that courtyard. His head is heavily bowed. His shoulders are slumped and hunched. The stone itself seems to carry this crushing, invisible weight. This statue shows a man who is completely drained, a man pushed to his absolute, devastating limit. The brokenness is actually the defining trait of his victory. It is the exact striking opposite of the pristine, arrogant Illuminati we just saw standing on Titan. And that leads us directly to a chilling, frankly unavoidable realization. The visual evidence points to one undeniable truth. The team didn't stop Thanos. Doctor Strange stopped Thanos. He did it completely alone. But realizing that brings up an even more impossible, terrifying question, doesn't it? How did one single human man do what an entire universe of powered heroes absolutely couldn't? We're talking about a single sorcerer facing down a Titan wielding infinity stones. What mechanics, what level of raw, unfathomable, universe-breaking power would be required to bridge that unimaginable gap in power scaling? To answer that, we need to look at our second major clue, the Scarlet Witch parallel. Because to understand exactly how Strange achieved the solo victory, we have to look at another moment of absolute, terrifying, localized power that we witnessed in this exact same universe. I'm talking about the sheer, horrific detail of Wanda's massacre. Think about the effortless brutality she unleashed on the Earth-838 Illuminati. There was no epic, drawn-out back-and-forth battle. There was no struggle at all. There was zero mercy. She dismantled the smartest man alive, quite literally turning him into string cheese in seconds. She silenced the most powerful Inhuman with a mere thought, causing his own power to cave his skull in. She sliced a super soldier in half as if she were made of wet paper. She reality bent the strongest beings alive without even breaking a sweat. This, right here, is what it actually looks like when a single entity effortlessly overrides the greatest powers in the universe. The source of Wanda's devastating might gives us the exact missing piece of our puzzle. Her power came directly from the Darkhold. So let's delve into the deep lore of what the Darkhold actually is, based purely on what we are shown in the story. It's not just some old book of spells. It is an ancient artifact of pure, concentrated evil. It grants immense, insane, reality-breaking power, sure, but it demands a horrific physical and spiritual trade-off. It literally rots the fingers of the user. It darkens the soul. It requires absolute soul-destroying corruption. It gives you exactly what you need to win the battle in front of you, absolutely, but it violently strips away your humanity in the process. And that brings us to the dark truth of it all, the Darkhold's secret. Earth-838’s Doctor Strange didn't use a team to beat Thanos. He used the darkness. This theory perfectly, flawlessly aligns with every single visual clue we've uncovered so far. Strange turned to the Darkhold. This forbidden, ancient magic provided him with the terrifying, overwhelming, reality-warping power needed to defeat Thanos single-handedly in an instant, just like Wanda did to the Illuminati. Think about the sheer, agonizing tragedy of this. He didn't just go out and find a bigger weapon. He let the darkness eat him alive from the inside out just to save a universe. That is exactly why he looked so incredibly broken in his memorial statue. He bore the absolute rotting weight of the Darkhold while the rest of his pristine team arrived later, entirely unscathed, simply to pose over the corpse. But wait, because there's an even bigger twist. Let's talk about the Book of Ashanti. You see, the mystery here is much, much darker than just a hero merely resorting to forbidden magic in a desperate final moment. We have to remember the existence of the Book of Vishanti in this specific universe. The Book of Vishanti is the literal exact antithesis to the Darkhold. It is the ultimate artifact of light. It's a book containing the perfect, completely safe, uncorrupted solution to literally any problem in the entire multiverse. And here is the deeply agonizing irony of this whole situation. Doctor Strange of Earth-838 knew exactly where it was. He literally built a pathway to it. He had access to the perfect, pure solution all along. So let me meticulously walk you through Strange's tragic mental process here, step by step. First, he is facing Thanos, the ultimate cosmic threat. The pressure he is under is completely unimaginable. But second, he actively chooses to ignore the Book of Vishanti. Now, why on earth would he do that? Because a safe, perfect path of light requires profound patience. It requires wisdom, humility, and perhaps most importantly, surrendering to a solution that he couldn't personally dictate or tightly control. So third, he deliberately chooses the Darkhold. The Darkhold spoke directly to his ego. It offered ultimate, immediate, intoxicating power. He chose dark magic for a fast, guaranteed, ego-driven victory. He actively bypassed salvation and embraced absolute corruption, simply because his sheer arrogance convinced him that he alone could handle the toxic gratification of immediate power. And this revelation completely, utterly shatters the narrative Mordo fed us earlier. Remember, the Illuminati claimed they solemnly executed Strange because his dream walking caused an incursion that destroyed another universe. But look at the actual political reality of this situation. The incursion was just a convenient cover-up. It was a sanitized, focus-grouped excuse crafted specifically for the public. Think about it. You don't build a massive grieving memorial statue for a man you executed purely over a cosmic accident. The Illuminati absolutely needed a lie, because admitting the truth that their greatest, most revered hero actively chose darkness and became a literal monster would completely shatter the public's faith in their perfectly unified front. The real reason they killed him is far more terrifying than an incursion. They executed Doctor Strange because they realized exactly what he had become, corrupted entirely by his own hubris, his deep-seated arrogance, and the rotting magic of the Darkhold. Strange was no longer a man. He had transformed from the universe's savior into a walking, reality-bending nuclear bomb, corrupted by ancient evil. He wielded a power that could instantly vaporize a Titan, wielding Infinity Stones. Just imagine for a second what he could do to them. To the Illuminati, Strange wasn't just a political risk anymore. Their greatest hero had become the ultimate threat to reality itself. They didn't execute him out of some noble sense of cosmic justice. They executed him out of pure, unadulterated terror. They had to put him down before he turned that unthinkable power on them. So, where does that leave us? Let's talk about the ultimate moral paradox: hero or dark villain? By peeling back the layers of the visuals, cutting through the lies, and understanding the artifacts, we are left not with a simple superhero story, but with a profound, deeply unsettling moral paradox. Was Earth-838’s Doctor Strange a hero who made an impossible, self-sacrificing choice to bear the crushing burden of dark magic so his friends wouldn't have to bleed? Did he take the fall so they could remain pristine? Or, driven by deep-rooted ego and blinding arrogance, was he actually a villain? A man who deliberately ignored the light, choosing the rotting darkness simply because he wanted the absolute power to win the war on his own terms? The absolute cinematic genius of this anomaly is that it offers us no easy answers. We are just left to stare at a statue of a broken man, lingering in the dread of his sacrifice, wondering what we would have done in the face of the Mad Titan.